keep pumping through your stereo.
Excuse me, I'm doing an interview here. So my name's Darren Pritchard. I'm the director of Rent Party, and the original idea came from, I was originally commissioned to do a piece on Langston Hughes, who's a very famous 1920s spoken word artist, and he was a queer black male from the 1920s who did lots of beautiful spoken word poetry. And I found out that he actually wrote these poems about these rent parties, and I was like, oh, what's a rent party? So I researched what a rent party was, and then I asked the question of myself, was like, what would a rent party be like in the 2000s, at the height of austerity? I did the original Rent Party in Manchester, and then it was put as a show that was put forward for the kind of Moving Roots projects, which is 4 different producing 4 different cities, kind of like creating and co-producing and co-creating work. And I'd done the Manchester one, and what I then wanted to do, and the question that I said to them when they was kind of like interviewing me was, I was like, well, I know what kind of the show in Manchester was like, but what would a rent party be like in Peterborough? What would a rent party be like in Cardiff? What are the stories and unheard voices in those places that I can put on stage and give a voice to and a license to?
So, tonight, for one night only, you guys are going to sponsor a Starving Arts.
Working with Darren is always a delight. I've known him since I was 11. We both went to university together and trained as dancers together, so we've got a lot of history, and also there's a lot of parallels in our both being queer, black, Mancunian, single parent mothers from working class backgrounds. The piece pushes that unapologetic grit, working class and the arts, and then encapsulates it all in what we call now Rent Party.
The Rent Party cast involves new people to Jumped Up, and also people who are telling stories in new ways. It's also got lots of live music in it, and is also created in Peterborough, which we also haven't done for a long time.
It's a telling of 6 different people's stories throughout their life. It might just be an aspect or a moment of their life. But yeah, it's also as well a real deep dive into queer existence and queer living, especially the one for Peterborough.
Yeah, I think it's quite a vulnerable show. I think it's very real. It's not too stagey or like performing. Everybody's very much who they are.
It's so personal to the performers that are in it. Usually you get, well, most of the time you get given a script, a character, and your journey is to kind of learn those lines, whereas as performers, we've really been asked to put our own stamp on it.
It's the only time where I've been asked to talk about myself, your stories, it's your thoughts. Even like the whole process is you and the director, or you and the producers and the director, or, you know, every vision is sort of also, you're added into the process.
I'm Nigel Adams, and I am a visual artist based in Rochester. I got involved in the Rent Party because there was a shout out saying if you've got a story to tell and you've got some kind of performing experience, and I thought, well, I've definitely got a story to tell and I've got performing experience. I'm guessing the Rent Party will give me an opportunity to talk about things I want to talk about my life, and to put across some kind of experience of my particular neurodivergent brain.
It has been like quite a big stepping stone for me in connecting to Wigan, because we moved here and then we were just in lockdown. Connecting to this show has been I guess like it feels like setting my roots down in Wigan.
Everybody at different stages of their life, we've all got stories what have overlapped. I've felt as outside as Jamie has, and as outside as Alice has.
I think the show's made a lot of us feel like empowered in ourselves, because we are, like I said, we're talking about different things that may be uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it should hopefully empower other people as well by listening to it.
I know that we don't necessarily come from the same backgrounds, but to be able to relate parts of my story with parts of other people's stories, it's kind of given me a view that, you know, there's not just me, we'll be going through the things we've gone through.
Rent Party is really fun and heartbreaking.
It's a celebration of people, it's a celebration of place.
A group of friends on stage.
Some sort of therapeutic story.
Fresh, and it's exciting.
Amazing.
A success.
Mr. Beat pumping through your.
So what I'm going to do for this kind of like next section is just have a conversation with the cast, and what we're going to jump to is the effect that this co-creation process has had, because I think we discuss a lot about what is it, where can it be, and these are the actual people that have been through this experience that can hopefully articulate it much better than myself. And I know that there's been lots of amazing stories and WhatsApp messages and voice notes that I'm still getting from some of the other casts and stuff about the way that we are kind of, well, I presume that most people know the benefits of the arts, what it can do, but what was special about this was that I went in, I was like, I want to work with professional level performers. I want to work with that working class talent that is out there, that is exceptional, that just needs that push, and they're there and they're gigging and they're working and they're out there, but they're just not given the opportunity just because of, and it's class in theatre because of the way they are, or the access. And I had an amazing kind of cast. So I'll start with Charlie. So you're probably the most kind of versed in what this co-creation thing is, but specifically in this show, was there any differences from the way you've worked before, and is there stuff that you've taken from it moving forward, or has it
Yeah, completely. So a lot of my work, so I'm a poet, a lot of my work is
autobiographical. So you're talking about a poet, so could you give us a little bit of poetry?
A little. All right. I will do, if I must. I'll do a little bit. This is a piece that was originally written to music. It's about celebrating fatness, celebrating wideness, and it's called Wide Goddess, and I'll give you a little taste. She scoops monsoons with a spoon, holds them to her womb, builds coops from cocoons, boo, she's a tycoon. She can bend herself, she's got a nervous stainless steel, spits double O's, lets them flow like sand round spinning wheels. There's 2 of her before the 7. Her body is a weapon, harpoon and lagoon, bonded beauty and aggression, and they're threatened. That'll do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess to answer your question, a lot of my work's autobiographical anyway, so the telling of my own story wasn't necessarily a new thing for me, but what this show and being part of such a queer cast allowed me to do was explore a new story about myself and be able to feel a safe space to tell it.
We heard this word safe space. What was the safe space for you within this project? Because we heard that word bandied around a lot, but what is it?
It's being around people like you with the same motivations, the same passions, the same care. It's also without judgment, but at the same time coming into it feeling validated already because of the fact that we were chosen, and we were chosen by such an expert like you. It gave us that confidence, I think, when we all came in, that then... without the kind of the judgment in the space, we were just trusted as well, which I think was really important.
So, following on from as it, not to sound like a pretentious tip, but has it affected you in any way? Like, in your work, in your practice, in
Yeah, I think it's definitely given me the strength to explore queerness in my work more, for me. It's given me a beautiful bunch of friends that we are now actually have that same motivation to work together outside the show as well.
And what are you doing outside of the shows when you say work together?
Loads. Teddy, do you want to talk about How's the Queerio?
Yeah, go on.
So, hi, I'm Teddy. I'm a drag queen, just in case you didn't know. During the process of Rent Party, me, myself and Alex sat down one day and said, we want to put on our own work. Because in Peterborough especially, a very conservative town, if you don't know where it is, it's just a bit up from Cambridge, but it is a very conservative town, and there isn't a lot of queer work available. Or there's not even queer work, it's just people, I'm always told it's a risk if I book a drag queen in Peterborough. Now, I'm not very offensive, very family friendly, I don't really swear very much. So we were sort of tired of it really, and have put on shows. So we've done one with Mark and Gavin, who is our pianist, called Queer Corp, which was 4 queer people singing. And we're also doing one on Saturday called Bond Girls, which is the celebration of all things Bond and female empowerment and the women that made Bond. So Summer, who's just on the end here, and Charlie. Charlie's our Bond villain, which we think is quite apt. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we weren't in the same space together. Me and Alex were always going to meet inevitably because we also do things for Pride. But we were able to, in that space, like Charlie said, we were able to have those conversations and have those real conversations. I don't know if anybody performs. You sort of get maybe a little shallow friendship, but in Rent Party, we all are very deep, close personal friends, which is very rare when you're sort of gigging around.
On. That's like magic. Just to add to that as well, I think because the pieces were so autobiographically developed, there becomes a natural synergy in and having an organic caring quality. So I think once we've actually shared the vulnerabilities within the space and the contents of what we are and the agency that we're offering the piece as individuals, that then becomes a shared space in which that I know Mark's pain to a certain extent across the board. So it becomes shared, and within that shared element is where the bond really is enriched, because we have a natural interest not only in us professionally but personally and emotionally and spiritually, because that comes with that journey.
Yeah, and also what we did in Rent Party, I think the reason it was successful and the reason is because we probably just went against every convention that theatre has built up over the past X amount of years, because if you're going to get different people on stage, you need different ways to get those different people. It's not that hard. So the casting process, the way we reached out, like Chantal in Wales, it was like, she's from that community and she had there was an Excel sheet that just went on and on and on and on and on of these people, and even the way we kind of like chose these, because the original Rent Party was about a black queer and black female experience, and then a lot of these were very sensitive to go, well, that's not our story, that's not our culture, and then we did that breaking down of going, well, this co-creation and this is a movement on from that, and it's about me as an artist exploring different voices and finding that shared humanity of kind of where we are as working class or other, and not even marginalised. Like most of the cast are marginalised by default of they all felt other than the theatre world they were coming into. So even on the casting process of the way it kind of like happened, we just stalked people and.
We didn't, Darren. Let's just get that right. Kate did, and the producers stalked very different people like Summer, and everybody was like, they Instagrammed them, Facebooked them. You are interested in you, so well done to you guys.
One of the first things we did, which is kind of like very anti, was we got rid of the open call for this project, because we were just like, when you do an open call, you always get a certain ilk of people applying that feel confident enough to apply for those jobs. So it was like, going into Chantal Say's Little Black Book per se, it was like we had to do a lot more conversations with those artists to get them to perform, to get them to even audition, to make sure that they felt validated, that they could be in a show like this. So in the casting, that's how this cast happened. So I'm going to hand over to Alex now, and because you've kind of been through the classical training route, and you're also like a gigging professional who's been constantly working. So how was this process for kind of like you?
For me, yeah, as Darren said, I came through the, stage school, theatre schools, did all of that, actually quite a successful career, cruise ships, everything, hit a certain age, and then on top of that I transitioned, and bam, that was it. There's no work. Until this has been my first main thing. I've done bits myself that I've literally clawed for the gigs. But then this came up, I was contacted, and this came up, and I went for it. And I wasn't sure, it's really out of my comfort zone completely. I'm very much about being given a song and a character and standing on a stage and singing. To be asked not to be a character and to stand on a stage and tell my story. And it was the talking, like the 4-minute monologue, petrified to life. In fact, out of all of us, it's not our comfort, is it? It wasn't.
There's a lot of bravery.
But it's become our comfort because we felt safe enough to be able to do that, and that's just from the grouping of the people that were brought together. And I think out of doing that, yes, we've met and we've made friendships, which is lovely, but also it's widened. It's opened us up countrywide, really, to meeting other people that we wouldn't necessarily get to meet. Because I know from London, it's a very closed circuit. Nobody's going to help you out. It's very dog-eat-dog. You find out for yourself. Nobody's giving you a hand up. Now, because I've got links to Manchester doesn't quite work like that. They're a bit more friendly. They're going to share the love. They're going to share the wealth. So Darren's put me in contact.
We're special as Mancunians.
Darren's put me in contact with other people that are now, so I've now got an opportunity to work with Home at Manchester, and so, it's just, and I wouldn't have had that world opened up for me, and that is from bringing these people together and doing this collective piece of work. It's opened up the whole, it's just like, it sounds really corny, but it is literally like a big family, and we can all network between each other and be like, oh, I know who you need to speak to, and so it's, yeah.
Well, the theatre world is built on nepotism, and it's like, I've just created a working class nepotistic network, so, because that's what it's like, because I've been in this game a long time, so it is kind of built on, it's like who you go to your Oxbridge friends, they get all the big jobs, and then they employ their other Oxbridge friends. Then you get the actors that go to a certain school, they're the ones who are going to have the spotlights, and the casting directors go to that, and it's like, Chantal acted as my spotlight, and like, the producers did, but we did it in a kind of like totally different way. So if others were to go through the kind of experience that you went through, would there be any advice for them in terms of, like, if you was entering it now, going
you have to. There has to be an honesty from the start, and I think that we were always honest, and I think it's a shared honesty of there is a certain amount of bravery that comes with this work. And that's personally and artistically as well. And I think that fight, in whatever shade or texture the performer comes with, I think that's what is the starting point for the journey. I think the first step has to be bravery in my eyes. And then from that, you kind of ease your way into whatever it forms.
I think as well, as a performer, you have to be able to accept people's advice. Co-creation, there was lots of times where I would sit with Alex and go, right, how did that sound? And she would tell you, good or bad.
Like that.
Yeah. She may use different words. That I might not be able to say. But it's that kind of thing of also as a performer, you need to just take your cool suit off. You're all there to make each other great. And that's the thing I think that co-creation really does well. But yeah, you just need to walk into the space and be really open and free and let that sort of process take over you as well.
I think it's trust all round as well, isn't it? I think that it's not only having trust within yourself, having trust within the process, and then having trust with the communications from the producers that have worked immensely hard on this co-creation, as well as the individuals that are actually going to deliver the co-creation and perform it. But I think it's definitely trust. I have to still look at Kate and trust, and I have to look at Rhiannon and trust, and Chantal and trust, and me and Darren have to have a trust, and we have to look at each other with that same level of trust to go, okay, there is a point once you've made a show that you just free flow. You know what I mean? You literally jump off that cliff and you hope that that show flies with the energy that you've guided through. Oh God, I'm sounding like a barman. Shut me up.
And as well as the trust, the other thing as well is a sense of humour, because some of our stories, like, it could be really heavy, so we need to be able to laugh at each other.
Yeah, that's
when
true.
something funny happens, like, just it's funny, and we have had some laughs, and
Yeah.
it's the ability to laugh with and at each other. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like.
With the required sensitivity of that human needs as well, because it's all very well saying you have to have a humour, but within the depth and the intricacies of what we're sharing, there is a sensitivity that you also need, and that takes a lot of emotional intelligence. And I'd say that this project for me has possibly been working with artists with that level of emotional intelligence is only coloured the art itself. And I think we can separate intelligence from emotional intelligence, but I really think there's a lot more scope in the arts for that emotional intelligence. We have to be tactile, we have to be loving, we have to be caring, and we have to be considerate, but we also have to be able to take the piss out of each other a little bit, because it is art, and it's, do you know what I mean? It is the way it is.
Yeah, and no kind of shade on a conference like this, but I'm kind of like, co-creation, isn't that what freelancers and gigging performers do when they collaborate for years? And it's just been given this kind of like, what is and I was like, this is what I've been doing as a freelancer for years, is getting my team together, getting my people. And this was like a little encapsulation, because each show is very different, like, and then people have seen each of the shows and they've gone, it's very different. And that's because I have kind of like co-created or collaborated with each of those artists to tell their stories, and they've put their twist on it. And stuff, because it's like, and co-creation and change, we know it can change, because when you put one person in a room it makes one change, and you put this is a lot of change, and a lot of intersectionality, and a lot of diverse thoughts, and a lot of different, and this, it wasn't contrived, it was actually, these were the best people, the most talented for this show, but we happened by default, just because of the way we did the process, got a very diverse cast in terms of like sexuality, orientation, and in some of the other places, like in Wales, and you wouldn't think of Wales, it was heavily, lots more people of colour. There was more people of colour on stage in Wales, in Cardiff, where you wouldn't think so, in a conservative club.
In a factory room.
Yeah,
Let's face
in the
it, it's a
factory room,
room,
in a conservative club, doing a show about kind of politics. So it's been really interesting kind of how we... how sometimes these questions are already answered, and then there's just a thing put on top of it. And I think especially like as working class actors, you have to co-create, because you've just never got no money to do all the stuff on your own. A lot of the time, you phone in your friends, and Chantal we come from a dance background, and we were saying that we jam, we collaborate, someone will mix the music for you, someone else will do a bit of costume for you, and these as gigging performers, or another friend will get you a gig, and that's a weird type of co-collaboration. But is there any kind of like final like thoughts?
I'd like to just mention how eclectic and diverse and intergenerational and not only are the different, because when Darren and myself was casting as well, we didn't only want different shades of people, we wanted shades of textures of different talents. So each one of us have a different discipline, and it's what that discipline is, what your energy is, what your personality is, what your background is, what your politics are. It's like looking at the artist as a whole person to see what tapestry we can kind of then sew on stage, which has been really, really, I think it's probably been one of the most enriching creative experiences for me, because I'm the only consistent role within Rent Party, so I've been in every region and been my role, but I've had the experience and the luxury to get to know each texture of each cast and in each different postcode, if you like. And I think that I've never worked with such a beautifully talented, eclectic. We've had people intergenerationally, there's different ages, there's different sexualities. The whole spectrum has been a beautiful, beautiful pixelated spectrum to work from. And I think that on a personal level, jumping from them different textures has really developed my people skills, not only professionally, but personally. And I think that the casting itself, I think that we've all got that more openness about because of the process itself.
Yeah, because this was a hard project you're talking about, and I say it like, I'm in the arts, I walk into some rooms and I hate everybody in there. And I'm just like, because I'm half the time I'm like the only working class one, the only one of colour, and then it's just kind of like on every level I'm not getting it. It's something in my spirit, it's just not catching these people. And I've done a project in a pandemic in 4 different cities with a cast of 25 and 4 producers, and I'll tell you no lie, I got on with each and every person. And part of it was the funding structure the way it was, because we didn't have to sell tickets and get the tickets numbers, but we sold out all of the shows. So that to me goes, are we focusing on the wrong thing when we have got these? And it wasn't just the cast, it went wider because it was interesting work. I believe that we got the first few nights of friends and family, and then we look wider in that, and then as an artist I go, God, I've been doing, we're told we've got a show, tickets, market. But what we did, once we took that pressure off and started to talk about the show, and all the artists started to get invested in it, because it took the artists about in the second week to go, they were kind of like, oh, what the fuck is this show?
I didn't understand what it was. Yeah. I still, within 2 weeks into rehearsals, I was still turning to these guys and saying, I don't understand what we're booked for. I don't get this. I don't get it. Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah, because my work kind of like lands at the end, and then you go, oh, this is what it was, and then they kind of did that work of marketing it for you because of the value of the work and the people. And we was very lucky to have that lump of kind of money that just was kind of there, where it's just like, actually, and one thing that we was very adamant on it is that it went to people. Yeah. It's like it went to people and freelancers, and that was one of the good things. So in terms of like, can it talk? Yeah, it can work, but around that working, things need to be different. I feel, because I've done your traditional touring, kind of had my show, sold it on, but everything around it has to be different for us to be more successful and create these fortunate experiences that I've had with these really unique artists that I've really got on with. And I know I keep banging on about that, but if you don't get on with someone in practice, it's a lot. It's a lot because you just sat in that place. So I think the whole infrastructure of the way we kind of look for the artists that we're dealing with within the funding structures, it needs to be tweaked. It needs to be looked at, and also what is a tour? It was like, this was a tour, but it didn't tour because it was me who went round touring and the assistant director. So that was a whole new touring model of going, we've got a show, and it gave, it was the work itself, but there's no reasons. There's a lot of shows that I see that you could go, for a bit more money invested in a rehearsal, you can bring the people of the place and that talent into that show. You can bring, and that's how you'll engage with people a lot more. And also, just like, as a CV, these guys are performing from Peterborough. It's like 70% vote in Brexit town, and it's like you're performing in that's the adversity that they're going against, and now they're in BAC, and it's like Yasmin from Wales came to, we needed a dancer, so it was like, we're going to use Yasmin in Wales to do the Wigan one, and it was just like, it created a kind of like ecology, and my main thing was like, get them paid during this pandemic. They're working class artists and they're not going to have this, and we was very up on the get as many artists paid as well as possible for the longest period of time, and even as well our tech team as well, because like to name like Ethan and the tech team in all the technicians were very, very sensitive to this type of work and understood it. And they're a lot of the unsung heroes, because dealing with the people and the stories, and even like if you're going to somebody and you're putting a mic on somebody, if there's somebody who's been through a transition or has been through certain stories, you have to have that sensitivity as well with the kind of like tech team. So and even they had like, I'm very open. I'm just like, what do you think? Because technicians generally see the most work more than anybody, because of the way that they work. So the whole kind of like infrastructure, I feel like, if we're talking, can it work? I think we go, yeah, we've got a traditional model that works, but there is also a new way of working that freelancers can work, and we're going to redefine what a tour is. Is it the piece? Is it the people? Is it the artist that tour? So I think if you put in those funding structures in, because I'm looking at the amount of money that goes into some of my tours, and I was like, well, actually, if there was 5 working class directors touring and working in different areas, the money would probably be better spent than me just touring a show that's really expensive to get to London, and we're paying hotel prices. So I think we can really look at an ecological way of like working it. But yeah, have we got any time for any questions on the floor? Is there, Christy, are you timekeeping? Yeah, have we got any questions? We've got
I
time
think
for
Teddy's
questions.
got something to say.
Yeah. So any questions? Any questions that anyone wants to ask the cast?
Teddy's got something.
Us?
Grab a mic.
I'm really interested in this new model of touring. I think it's really fascinating to hear about. I'm interested in how your rehearsal process in each place. Like, how long did you have in each place? Is the first question, and how did the piece itself, was there like a template? Like, how did it work? That it was kind of like it was in all those places and it was the same show, but obviously it was different because it was about the individuals who were performing in it. How did you work within the same structure? How did that work?
I think to a certain extent it was to do with the casting process it started, to be honest with you, because we needed to get to know the cast before we casted. So we did that a lot because of the pandemic, was through Zoom, wasn't it? We had forums, and then we basically auditioned through Zoom, and then they had to write a little bit of literature which told and shared us and conveyed us their type of person they was. And we also had to give them the license to be able to share with us, but not necessarily share on stage, because it's really important when you get to know something that everything that is discussed and disclosed in person might not necessarily end up on stage, and that's a sensitivity that the directors have to have alongside with the artist. So in some respects it started with that process, and then once me and Darren did cast it alongside the amazing producers that we had, it was basically a continuation of deepening that knowledge of each other. So I'd say that we always did Zoom, didn't we, for a proportion?
It actually, we redid it. We learned with each one to become more efficient. So by the time we come to, I had it down. It was like, we got that show done in a week. So we did have a template of the show, and it's a really easy show in terms of like, it's 5 stories that kind of do a monologue. So so we had the template of the show. Stuart toured with each of them because he was hosting the party, so he was the linchpin. But we set ourselves 3 weeks to rehearse in each place. But then we were supposed to, originally, we were supposed to do 3 weeks and then a week's run of the show, and I was supposed to have a week's break, then go into each one. But the pandemic was actually a blessing for that, because it stopped and I got time between each one, because I don't know how I would have done it. Like, looking at it now, was like 4 shows with a week in between each one. So we started off to we did like a week's worth of Zooms, but then we originally did it as a chunk, but then we was like, actually no, I need to get their stories, have some headspace, and then go into 2 weeks intensive rehearsals, and then a week's. So we had a template, but it did, and then by the time Wigan had come, we knew exactly how many Zooms to have, exactly how, and it was really quick. It was like, right, we're doing an hour Zoom, because it was like, oh, we'll do 2 hours with each of them over 3 days, and then it was like, no, actually we need 2 hours over 5 days with each of them, go into the space for 2 weeks, then a week's run of the show. So yeah, we learned the formula by the end. So yeah, it was quite structured, and Stuart was so integral to the show because he was assistant director, but he was a linchpin. It helped him being a performer in the show, I think, as opposed to just me directing it, because he could help orchestrate it as well.
And I think that because I'm in it, I have to almost have that synergy, but I also had to have that synergy of picking these people with them. Do you know what I mean? So it was really good for me, because at one point I almost drop being assistant director and start being a cast member, but I was always being able to mediate between what we were feeling as a cast, but then what was needed as a director, because I was able to kind of flitter. So often these guys would see me disappear from being on stage, and and then
that's exactly how we did it. And then was the Darren, you just need to deliver that line.
And I think that was really kind of a nice role for me to be able to be embraced with both sides of it. And I think that going back to the pandemic, our talented producers were defending and hoarding this money in the pandemic, you know, because they had that intent for this show. So we have to thank them for protecting their pockets in such really weird times. And it was going to be in this month, and then it was going to be 6 months later, and then it's moved to this. So I think that having that, although the pandemic was a hindrance in some respects, it also helped because the level of communications that Darren and myself and all the producers in all the different areas were still able to keep communicating on the same project actually ended up locking us in more to what we were doing. We all knew the vision by the time it came to the practical sides of actually delivering it.
And also, I think the role of the producer changed in this, in terms of we kept going, what's a producer, because it's like they were creative producers, because they had to have such a deep, like, even with the casting, it's like they gave me a short list, and the short list was knockout for each one, because they understood the show, they understood what it was about,
and the bar,
and they understood the people that was needed it. So that relationship between, and most of them were in every day in the rehearsal room because of the needs of the people. So that role of the producer in the relationship of myself. Some of them had like artistic input because they knew the place, and they were like, yeah, that would be good for our kind of audience, or actually these are the people that need to be seen on stage because of politically this is where we need to go. So that role like we worked very, very like closely on the casting, and then because I've never been in a project where the producer was generally there every day. It was generally to support the cast, but it was a very special relationship, and they were a lot more kind of like creative than your kind of like, here's your per diems, here's handing your taxi receipt. They had a very, very kind of caring kind of interest in each of the performers, because each of the performers will go to the producer and we'll have conversations as well, and create lots of creative conversations. And
it was a little bit, I don't know, I might be showing my age now, but it's like the press gang, or, you know, the office in Bond. So we had like money pennies that came in the shape of Kate's and, do you know what I mean, Jessie and Chantel and Christy, and we had these people that we accessed, but they were almost like there was always an office in the studio. So rather than us coming into this space, which is a theatre space, generally there's still the producers working and beavering away and keeping that communication with lives on what, like, actually, do we want red balloons or green balloons? You've got the producers already going, I can get you green. I can get you green, but I can't get for this until, you know what I mean? So I think that live element of support is something to really explore going forward in the arts, in co-creation, because it's a present, you have to be present. It's not, I'll be in the office, guys. If you need anything, give me a call. You know the code for the door, XYZ. It's not that. It's actually they're feeling the energy of the piece because they're in the space and going through that creative journey alongside us, knowing their roles, but informing it. And I think that's something that is really, I have to compliment you as producers for harnessing us as performers that sometimes can be a bit scatty. I mean, my anxiety is terrible. I need marks on the floor, I need a certain chalk, I need this, I know I sound precious. But having that support with them as producers meant that I felt heard and I felt safe. And I think I can speak on all of us for that half.
And I think, Stuart, now it's over to you to...
Are we going to dance?
Shall we dance?
I think we should dance.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions just to conclude this section, or is there anything that the cast want to say?
There is another Q&A at the end, which we'll do more in depth.
I just think the biggest thing you can do if you think about co-creation is just treat the performers as adults. I know sometimes, so I've been with some directors, they have literally told me to move every single every single digit and every single arm. What Darren and Stuart and Kate and Emily were able to do for us was they turned around and said, this is your show, go and do it. And there is a certain level, obviously, that they wanted, but obviously having that trust with your performers will get there. You might not see it on day 1, you might not see it on day 2, and then if they need to put in day 3, they will. But what I'm saying is just trust them, because we are, if you've cast it right, you'll be good. The show will be good. So I think that's the biggest piece I would say from Rent Party that I learned is if I were to ever produce a show, I just trust the performers more and just let them bloom and blossom, let them be who they are.
Because how many times as performers we go to directors and say, I was thinking this or this, and then what we do as directors was refer that back to them. How do you feel you would do it in that moment? And then that becomes their show then. And we have license as performance. And I got both sides because obviously I was assistant director as well as a performer, but that was still a choice I had. Yes.
Yeah, then I can just take the credit for your work.
So guys, I'm just going to take you through a little bit of a mover and shaker
If
because
you
you've all
want
been
to
sat
move,
down.
you can
So
stand
this
up
is
and
gonna
move.
be-
You don't have to. You can be a silent observer, but...
Stand up, guys. Get into a little space. I'm going to guide you through it verbally and physically.
I'm gonna be here,
I am going to dot the
MCing.
cast. Can I dot you around the space so people have got people to see and watch? Do. And have we got music sorted? If you can get that sorted, and I'm going to gently just take... So first of all, guys, I'm just going to show you the different movements, what it is. Then we'll play some music, and then I will verbally guide you through it. It's more movement-based. If I say dance, people go, oh, my God, what are you doing? I'm in a conference. I've got my pen. You don't need your pen for this bit. So we're just going to rotate our head, guys, really comfortably. And I'm going to do it... I will do it this way when we do it, but... For the purposes of engagement, I will do it facing you. We're just going to rotate the head for 2 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll repeat that the opposite way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we're just going to roll the shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you do one resolution in 8. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One arm, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The other arm, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Multitasking. Both arms. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to march. We all love a march, don't we? Brilliant. This is good, guys. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more expressive. We're going to do what you call a grapevine step. We're going to go to the right. We go step, behind, step, together. If that's a bit too confusing, the behind, just do step, together, step, together. Yeah? Let's try that. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do what you call a corner clap. Okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to step to the right and clap high. Then we clap high again. Clap low. Clap low. So I call it the corner clap because effectively you're clapping in each corner if you visualize the square. Let's try that. 5, 6, 7, 8. What, did I say it right? And low. And you'll find it's a little bit gospel-y. Yeah? Not that I'm religious. Okay, made me drop my mic too soon, guys. I charge for that normally. Okay, so we've done that. Now we're going to do what you call just a little travel forward. You're going to do 4 steps forward, 4 steps back, guys. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4. Forward, 2, 3, 4, and back. 2, 3, 4. Excellent. And then I might ask you to just do a few poses. So you might go 1, 2, 3, 4. Change, 2, 3, 4. Change, 2, 3, 4. Should we try that together? Because you all look really scared about that. Poses in the count of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and pose.
Work.
2, 3, 4.
Pose.
2, 3, 4.
Pose.
2, 3, 4.
Pose.
Good. And then, if I'd like you to all do a pose on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, pose. Now hold it, and all I'm going to ask you to do is give me a pulse.
Feel it deep
Yeah,
now.
feel
Feel
the
it
pulse.
deep.
That can be in your hip. It can be in your shoulders. Yeah, good. Then I'm going to teach you my dance. If we can just stop the music for a second, that would be great. So I'm going to basically show you what my dad does when he dances. And he says it's what you call all emotion and no motion.
You gotta feel it.
So,
You
when I
gotta
say
feel it.
freestyle groove, you basically got to do my dad, which is all emotion, no motion. So if you can just screw your body up in a contorted way, feel the emotion.
Just feel it.
And then just
Yeah,
basically feel what that feels like.
feel the music.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
more you feel, the better it'll feel.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I'm going to ask you that. So that's all the movements, guys. Now what we're going to do is we're
I
just
want
going
that
to
on a
gently
t-shirt.
string it. Oh, I've got one more. We're going to march. Yeah? And then I want you to imagine you've got a cane. This is my majorette moment. I never was a majorette as a child because Mama didn't let me do it and she couldn't afford it.
We don't need
Boo-hoo-hoo.
backstory.
Backstories. We do need backstories. However, this was me in my bedroom. Now, you've got a cane, you've got 2 8s to walk around your cane, yeah? I would demonstrate what I don't want. I don't want the cane to go around you. I want you to go around the cane, okay? Let's try that. Marching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold your cane. 2, 3, 4. Walking 2 8s. We go 1, 2,
There's a
3,
hold in
4,
there.
5, 6, 7. In fact, we'll do it in 1 8. Yeah, we can do it in 1 8. That's good. And then I might get you to change.
The cane.
And guess what? You go around t'other way. 1, 2. Yeah? Guys, you've done absolutely fantastic. This is about fun. It's about loosening you up. So just enjoy this moment. Let's try it. Cue music.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Better.
Darren might be doing a bit of MCing while we do this,
Get a
yeah?
kit,
So
kit,
we're
cat.
just going to gently march. Keep that march going. I'm going to give myself some space. Good, guys. Let's keep this going. Really loosen it up. We're going to start with the head roll. Head roll.
7, 8, and 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Other way.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Shoulders.
You have some problems. You need
One
God
arm.
to solve them. You get down on your knees and pray.
Other arm.
When is he coming through? When will he
Multitasking.
answer you? Well, it may not be right away.
Grapevine to the
In
right.
the meantime,
And
just
again.
keep your mind
Keep
in
it
a
going.
positive attitude. And while
again.
you're waiting, start praising.
We're going to do the forward march,
He's gonna
okay?
see you through.
Forward march. We go forward and back. Repeat that. We're going to do one corner clap high. One grapevine to the right. Grapevine. Repeat that forward. Now I want a little jump. Forward. Jump! Yeah. Grapevine. And again. Back to marching. Cane. Walking 6, 7, 8. Back to marching. Past your baton. Walking 6, 7, 8. Pose 4. Pose.
So much is going on.
Pose.
What's taking God so long? You're
Pose.
backing up against the wall.
Pose. Now we're going to pulse.
Pressure on every side.
Hold that pulse. I want you to do a little rotation. I'll show you. Hold the pose. Keep stomping round, round, round.
Be patient.
Just make your finger go along now. I can do it. Love it.
Corner clap. High, high, and low. Again. High, high, and low. Forward march. With a jump. And again. Corner clap 1 time. Then a grapevine to the right. Treble. And my dad dance groove.
All emotion.
Really tiny. Woo. Really tiny. Just feel your own vibe like you're dancing in treacle.
Pulse. Other leg. Corner clap. One grapevine. Corner clap again. High, high, low. Grapevine. Posing. 8. Change. Change. Last pose. Now get low. High. Little oscillation with the hips. Forward march. And again. One corner clap. One grapevine to the right. Grooving on your own. Just groove it out. We can gently start fading the music, guys. Just groove it out. Are they fading? Now we're going to do a little punch. Punch it in different directions. Different directions. Yeah. Good. Can we get the music to fade? Forward march. 5, 6, 7, go. Forward. And again. One corner clap.
Yeah. Well done,
Give
everyone.
yourselves a clap, guys. Welcome to the Rent Party energy.
Hey! Well done, Rent Party.